Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear student, to continue our business of chemotherapy, we have discussed the drug which inhibit the cell wall synthesis, and then we have discussed the drugs which inhibit the protein synthesis in the microorganism. And now today we are discussing drugs inhibiting nucleic acid synthesis in the microorganism. In this group, we have two types of drug. You should remember them. They are antifolate and enzyme inhibitor of the nucleic acid. So in this group of drugs, antifolate, the example of these drugs is that these drugs are mainly synthetic drugs like sulfonamides, sulfones, trimethoprim, pyrimethamine and methotrexate. These are the drugs which are called as antifolates. These drugs mainly inhibit the synthesis of folic acid in the microorganism. Just to make you understand that bacteria mainly they synthesize their folic acid intracellularly, but we human being, we take the preformed folic acid from the diet. So that's why these two processes, they are different in microorganism and in human being. That's why we are not affected to that extent. These antifolates, they inhibit the folic acid synthesis at various stages, which we will discuss later on. The second group of drug which inhibit the nucleic acid synthesis, they are enzyme inhibitors like quinolones and rifampicin. Quinolones, they are again synthetic drug, especially antibacterial drug, and rifampicin, which is mainly reserved for the treatment of antimicrobial drugs, especially anti-TB drugs. It's included into the first line anti-TB drugs. So we will start first the antifolates. In the antifolates, the first group of drug is sulfonamides. These sulfar drugs, it's a group of drugs. It's a group of synthetic drugs which are used especially as an antibacterial drugs. Although they are also used, these sulfonamides, in combination with trimethoprim in the case of malaria, especially falciparum resistant these protozoas like malarial parasite. In that condition, we can also use sulfonamide in combination. These sulfonamides, they are synthetic drugs. These are synthetic group of drugs which are synthesized especially in the laboratory. The first sulfonamide was synthesized in 1955 in the laboratory. These sulfonamides, they are derivative of the sulfanilamide by substitution of the various group on the benzene ring, especially this amino or amide group. They are alternately they are substituted and various groups they are formed. About the chemistry of the sulfonamide. These sulfonamides, they are the analogues of PABA, para-amino benzoic acid. So sulfonamides are structurally they are related with the para-amino benzoic acid, PABA. They are synthetic compounds derived from sulfonamides as given in the diagram. Especially the sulfonamide, they have sulfur and amino group combined with this benzene ring, but pharma it has carboxyl group attached and amino group attached to that. About the classification of the sulfonamide, we can classify sulfonamide by different ways, but the more authentic way of classification of sulfonamide is we can use sulfonamide systemically and sulfonamide used locally. Those sulfonamides which act systemically, they are used for the systemic infection of the bacteria, and those which are used locally, especially on the wounds, in the case of burn, and on the mucous membrane. So sulfonamide used systemically. The drugs in this group, again, they can be divided into two groups: well absorbed through GIT and be poorly absorbed through GIT. So these are the two groups of drugs which are used systemically: well absorbed and poorly absorbed. Mind it, these poorly absorbed sulfonamides, they are mainly used, the drugs in this group are like phenyl sulfathiazole and succinyl sulfathiazole, sulfagonidine and sulfasalazine. These drugs, they act locally in the GIT. Means they are used in the GIT infection, just like these bacterial infection, bacterial enteritis, and sometimes in the ulcerative colitis. So they act locally in the gut. They are not absorbed. But these sulfonamides which are used systemically, they are absorbed through GIT and they produce their systemic effect. Drugs in this group are well absorbed. They are either short acting or long acting. About the short acting, they are sulfadiazine, sulfadiamidine, sulfaminazine, sulfafurazole, and sulfamethoxazole. These drugs, they act for prolonged time, means their BD dose is enough to act against the systemic infection, bacterial infection. Then the long-acting sulfa drugs, they are sulfafinazole, sulfamethoxine, and sulfamethoxide and sulfadoxine. These are the long-acting sulfa drugs. So these are the drugs which act systemically. They are used for the systemic bacterial infection. Now, the poorly absorbed, although they are given through GIT orally, but they are not used for the systemic bacterial infection. These drugs, they are just used for the local GIT infection. For example, the drugs in these groups are phenyl sulfathiazole, succinyl sulfathiazole, sulfagonidine, and sulfasalazine. These succinyl sulfathiazole and phenyl sulfathiazole, they are used just to sterilize the gut. sterilize the gut before the gut surgery. Before the gut surgery. And the sulfasalazine, sulfaguanidine, they can be used in the cases of these colon, ulcerative colitis. Sometimes they are combined, especially sulfasalazine, they are combined with the aspirin. When they go, they are separated in the GIT by the action of the bacteria. They are decomposed. So aspirin and sulfasalazine, they become separated. Sulfasalazine acts as an antibacterial and aspirin acts as an analgesic over there. So these are the systemic sulfonamide. But on the other side, sulfonamide used locally. These drugs are used for the local bacterial infection, like infection of the skin, infection of the eye, infection of the wounds, infection of the mucous membrane. About these sulfonamides which are used locally, they act on wounds like sulfadiazole, sulfasalazine, silver sulfadiazine. So these specially they are incorporated in the combination in the ointment, especially used in the cases of the burn wound. They have very good results, especially in the healing of the burn wound, just to sterilize the burn wound and to promote the healing of that wound. Then on the mucous membrane, especially as I told you in the case of these gut infection, the ulcerative colitis, they are sulfonamide. They are used in the mucous membrane. Also, this sulfasalazine can be used in these cases. Then, about the mechanism of action. About the mechanism of action of the sulfonamides, as I told you, sulfonamides, when taken orally, these drugs are taken systemically by IV route. They can go and penetrate the susceptible organism, and then what they do? As I told you already, that bacteria, they synthesize the folic acid intracellularly. For example, here PABA plus pyridine. These are the constituents which make the folic acid. These PABA and pyridine, they are incorporated along with glutamate. And under the enzyme dihydrothyroid synthase enzyme, then it forms dihydrofolic acid. What these sulfonamide they do? Sulfonamide, they combine. It is taken by, in place of PABA, sulfonamide is taken. and incorporated with the pyridine. So what occurs? The actual ingredient they are not incorporated. Instead of PABA, sulfonamide combined with pyridine. So the enzyme dihydroteroid synthase enzyme is blocked. So dihydrofolic acid is not found. Dihydrofolic acid is not found. With the result, the tetrahydrofolic acid is not found, and at the end, nucleic acid is not found. Nucleic acid synthesis is inhibited. So this is the way of the mode of action of sulfonamide. Sulfonamide, when we normally these bacteria, they form folic acid from PABA and pyridine combined in the presence of glutamate. Dihydrofolate folic acid is formed. So this, when we give sulfonamide in place of PABA, sulfonamide combined with the pyridine, and dihydroteroid synthase enzyme is blocked. So dihydrofolic acid is not found, not synthesized. With the result, the whole chain of the nucleic acid synthesis is inhibited. This can be well understood by this diagram. Normally, PABA plus pyridine under the action of dihydroteroid synthase enzyme, they form dihydrofolic acid. Normally, this dihydrofolic acid is again acted by dihydrofolate reductase enzyme, and then tetrahydrofolic acid is formed, which is the active form of the folic acid, and this forms purine, DNA, and then protein synthesis. So when this enzyme is blocked, the whole story is inhibited. This was the normal. But when we give sulfonamide, beside this PABA is taken by the microorganism, and then it blocks this enzyme, dihydroteroid synthase enzyme. So dihydrofolic acid is not synthesized. When dihydrofolic acid is not synthesized, the whole story is inhibited. This was about the mechanism of action of sulfonamide. Now, antibacterial spectrum. What type of microorganisms are affected by sulfonamide? Mind it, in our time, the use of sulfonamide was on the peak. But because many of the microorganisms, they got resistance against the sulfonamide. So nowadays, the use of sulfonamide is restricted to specific type of infection, like respiratory tract infection, urinary tract infection, wound infection like these burn wound, and sometimes we also give sulfonamide in combination with other drug to treat this resistant type of malaria. So this is for that. Now the antibacterial spectrum, sulfonamide can affect both gram-positive and gram-negative organism. They can also affect this nocardia, toxoplasma, chlamydia, trichomas, and protozoa as well, which is used against the chloroquine-resistant Plasmodium falciparum. Mind it, nowadays some of the countries they are using chloroquine or this hydroxychloroquine in the treatment of these this virus, coronavirus as well. But it is not approved up to now. It's presumption. This is the antibacterial spectrum. The sulfonamide can also affect the salmonella. These Enterobacterium, Shigella, these are affected by the sulfonamide. Now, resistance. How microorganisms get resistance against the sulfonamide? These are the three ways by which microorganism gets resistance against the sulfonamide. The first is alteration of enzyme that utilizes PABA. As I told you here, PABA plus tyrosine, they are incorporated and form the nucleic acid. But when sulfonamide is given, this sulfonamide by combination with the tyrosine, it inhibits the enzyme dihydroteroid synthase enzyme, so dihydrofolic acid is not synthesized. Sometimes these enzymes, the dihydroteroid synthase enzyme, they don't use sulfonamide. They continue using PABA with the tyrosine. So that type of microorganism which doesn't use sulfonamide in place of PABA, so they continue to synthesize nucleic acid. So that type of microorganism, they become resistant to the sulfonamide. Second mechanism of resistant, some of the microorganisms, they produce enzyme against the drug, enzyme production, which inactivate the drug. Some of the microorganisms, they produce enzyme which break down the sulfonamides, and then sulfonamide become inactive in that particular, in the infection of that particular microorganism. Then the last is alteration of the metabolic pathway. Sometimes these enzymes like dihydroteroid synthase enzyme, these enzymes they change in such a way that their metabolic pathway is changed. For example, some of the microorganisms which are sensitive, they use sulfonamide beside PABA. But in some of the microorganisms, the metabolic pathway is changed, and the sulfonamide is not incorporated with the tyrosine, and the pathway changes the PABA, again it combines with the tyrosine, and the process of synthesis of folic acid continues. So with the result, that microorganism also becomes resistant to the effect of sulfonamide. So this is the resistant production against the sulfonamide. Now the pharmacokinetic means the effect of the body on the drug. Sulfonamides, usually they are given orally, but they can be given by IV route as well. When drugs, sulfonamides, they are administered orally, the drugs are well absorbed through GIT up to 90%, 70 to 90% of the drug is absorbed, and the drug then combined with the plasma protein and circulate into that. But when some of the drugs like halide sulfathiazole and succinyl sulfathiazole, they are not absorbed from the GIT. As I told you already, they act locally, like in the ulcerative colitis. They act locally. But they are then passed in the feces. They are not absorbed. But other sulfonamides, which are readily absorbable, they are absorbed from the gut well, and they can reach to the systemic circulation in large amount, means up to 90% is absorbed. The drug can also be passed from the blood-brain barrier, means the drug can also reach the CNS. Even without the inflammation, majority of the drugs, when the meninges they are inflamed, they can pass to the brain. But sulfonamide is a type of drug which can easily cross the blood-brain barrier and can reach the CNS without the inflammation of the meninges. The drug can also cross the placenta, can reach the fetus in utero. So that's why sulfonamides, they are contraindicated in pregnancy, even in lactation. In lactation, they cannot be given to the lactating mother. These long-acting sulfonamides and other sulfonamides, they are extensively metabolized in the liver. Means 70 to 95% they are metabolized in the liver, and then by acetylation and glucuronic acid conjugation, then they are eliminated through the kidney. So that's why both healthy liver and healthy kidneys, for their metabolism and elimination, they are must. Otherwise, they should not be administered to the patient of liver disease and patient of the kidney disease. The drug is eliminated through the kidney by glomerular filtration. Then uses. Last comes the uses of the drugs. As I told you, sulfonamides in old days, their use was very profuse. Even in our time, these sulfonamides, they were used profusely in the systemic infection like tonsillitis, pharyngitis, bronchitis, pneumonia, urinary tract infection, skin infection, soft tissue infection. But mainly nowadays, sulfonamides, they are reserved for the infection of respiratory tract and for the infection of the urinary tract. They have good result, especially in these two types of systemic infection. But preparations for the sulfonamides are also available, which are used for the local infection as well. So the majority of the uses are in the infection of gram-positive and gram-negative bacteria. Gram-negative and gram-negative bacteria. Gram-positive like Streptococcus, which cause the tonsillitis, pharyngitis, bronchitis. In these type of infection, they have good result. But also they can be used in the systemic infection, like when the microorganisms come into the blood, septicemia caused by susceptible microorganism, they are also used over there, and they can also be used in the soft tissue infection of that susceptible organism. About the urinary tract infection, uncomplicated urinary tract infection, especially caused by E. coli, Proteus, Klebsiella, Pseudomonas, but majority of the Pseudomonas, they are resistant to the effect of the sulfonamide. Then other condition is bacillary dysentery. Here it has good result, these sulfonamides, especially when they affect the gut, especially food poisoning, these traveler diarrhea. These conditions are also very well covered by sulfonamide. About the bacillary dysentery, there are two types of dysentery: amoebic dysentery and bacillary dysentery. Amoebic dysentery, there is no temperature with the amoebic dysentery, but when secondary infection can occur, that can cause temperature. But bacillary dysentery, there is mucus, blood coming in the feces, and there is temperature as well. Sometimes these vomiting can also occur. So in that condition, we use sulfa drugs. Then streptococcal infection, which we have discussed, like tonsillitis, meningitis, cellulitis, these are also very well covered by sulfa drugs. Now these chlamydial infections, especially chlamydial conjunctivitis, chlamydial urethritis, so these conditions can also be cured by sulfa drug. Then dermatitis, skin infection caused by susceptible organism, again like these streptococcal infection, staphylococcus infection of the skin, they can be treated by sulfa drugs, but those organisms which are resistant to the action of the sulfa drugs, nowadays these penicillins and cephalosporin, third generation cephalosporin, they are used in that condition. Then in the infection of toxoplasma, again we can use sulfa drug in this condition. Then sulfa drugs are also used in combination with the other drugs, as in case of chloroquine resistant malaria. In this case, we use sulfamethoxazole along with pyrimethamine. These two drugs we give in combination to cure the chloroquine resistant Plasmodium falciparum infection. Then about the topical infection like burns, burn wound, ulcerative colitis, sterilization of the gut, and also topical use in the eye. In the eye, we have preparation of the sulfonamide to be instilled in the eye, and these ointments, especially for the burn wound and for the ulcerative colitis. Mind it, we give oral sulfonamide just like phenyl sulfathiazole, succinyl sulfathiazole. They are used for the ulcerative colitis. And then we can also use sulfonamide by IV route in case of comatose patients and other patients like meningitis. But again, for the meningitis like Haemophilus influenzae, nowadays more safe and more effective drugs they are available. They are not so much used for this condition. But when these drugs are not available and you are in the periphery, you can use sulfonamide in this condition. Then adverse effects. Mind it, these sulfonamides, they have adverse effect, especially for the blood, for the kidney. They have these adverse effects like number one, hypersensitivity reaction. Hypersensitivity reaction. In these, there can occur skin rashes, drug fevers, erythema nodosum, Steven-Johnson syndrome, even photosensitivity. When a patient taking the sulfonamide, they walk in the ultraviolet rays in the sun, there can occur photosensitivity, irritation on the skin, and even eruptions of the skin. They can occur with sulfonamide. Other one is serum sickness. Then urinary tract adverse effect. Urinary tract adverse effects. Sulfonamide, they can form crystals in the kidney, crystal formation. Even sulfonamide, they can form stones in the kidney, and sometimes these crystals or stone, they can obstruct urinary outflow. So these should be kept in mind. Usually, when we use sulfonamides systemically, you should give plenty of water to the patient just to avoid these crystal formation, stone formation in the kidney. Sometimes these crystals, even they can cause hematuria. When they pass these crystals, they can damage the ureter, even bladder, and sometimes these penis also can cause hematuria. So these tubular necrosis can occur with the use of the sulfonamide. So these points should be kept in mind. Then hematologic reactions. These sulfonamides, they can cause anemia. Especially the anemia should be kept in mind, especially for the glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficient patient. When there is deficiency of glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase enzyme, there can occur the chance of this anemia. It increases. Blood dysplasia can occur when you use sulfonamide in the glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficient patient. There can occur aplastic anemia. Even sulfonamide, they can affect the bone marrow. So all types of this pancytopenia can occur. Then thrombocytopenia means the platelet count can become decreased. Granulocytopenia, the WBC count can decrease. So all these can occur with sulfonamide. Then GIT adverse effects. Sulfonamide, they can cause stomatitis, ulceration on the tongue. They can cause nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. These types of adverse effects can occur with sulfonamide. Then, because sulfonamide, they are metabolized in the liver reaction can occur. They can affect the liver by causing hepatitis, liver necrosis. The parenchymal cells of the liver, they can be necrosed. So those should be kept in mind. About the contraindications, where we should not use sulfonamide. You should remember that sulfonamide should never be used in the pregnancy. They should not be used in the lactating mother, and they should not be used in liver disease, and they should not be used in the kidney disease. So this is about the adverse effect and contraindication of the sulfonamide. Then the next group of antifolate is that is especially the two groups, the two drugs you should remember, they are trimethoprim and pyrimethamine. Trimethoprim and pyrimethamine. Again, these are the antifolate drugs. Sometimes these drugs are used in combination, but they can be used as a single drug as well. About the pharmacokinetic, again these drugs they can be used by oral route and by IV route. When the drugs are administered by oral route, they are well absorbed, just like sulfonamide. Even they are more fat soluble than sulfonamide, and they are easily absorbed. About their distribution, these drugs they are well distributed to all body tissue, including CSF. Even they can easily cross the blood-brain barrier and can reach the brain. The drugs they are metabolized in the liver. Both parent drug and metabolized, they are excreted through the kidney. So again, healthy liver and healthy kidney, they are must for their metabolism and for their elimination. So this was about the pharmacokinetic of the trimethoprim and pyrimethamine. Then mechanism of action. It is very interesting. Mechanism of action. As I told you, these trimethoprim and pyrimethamine, because folic acid is synthesized in the bacteria cell from their ingredients. In that pharmacokinetically, when they are combined by the action of dihydroteroid synthase enzyme, they form along with glutamate, dihydrofolic acid is formed. This dihydrofolic acid again is inactive. For the activation, another enzyme, dihydrofolate reductase. Enzyme. This enzyme acts at that point, and dihydrofolic acid is changed into tetrahydrofolic acid or tetrahydrofolate. So this is the active form of the folic acid, and then from the tetrahydrofolate, then purine, and then nucleic acid, they are synthesized. What this trimethoprim and pyrimethamine they do, they block this enzyme, dihydrofolate reductase enzyme. So again, with the result, the synthesis of folic acid is inhibited, just like sulfonamide. Sulfonamide inhibits the folic acid synthesis at the level of dihydroteroid synthase enzyme. They block this enzyme and block the nucleic acid synthesis. But trimethoprim and pyrimethamine, they block dihydrofolate reductase enzyme. So again, the nucleic acid synthesis is inhibited. So this is the mechanism of action of trimethoprim and pyrimethamine. Then about their antibacterial spectrum, mind it, the antibacterial spectrum of trimethoprim and pyrimethamine is somewhat same as for the sulfonamide, but again the affinity for the bacterial entrance is more for the pyrimethamine and trimethoprim compared to the sulfonamide. The organisms which are affected by trimethoprim and pyrimethamine, they are especially these enterococci, gram-negative bacilli like Proteus, Klebsiella, E. coli, Pseudomonas, which are sensitive to the drug. Then there is pyrimethamine. Pyrimethamine can also affect the protozoa, like this malarial parasite. It can also affect there. So this is the antibacterial spectrum. Then uses. Again, this trimethoprim, pyrimethamine, they can be used in the urinary tract infection. Urinary tract infection, especially for uncomplicated, especially those organisms which are sensitive to these drugs. Then trimethoprim, pyrimethamine, they can be used in the prostatitis, in the infection of the prostate gland, in vaginal infection, and in the malaria. So these are the uses of trimethoprim and pyrimethamine. Then about the adverse effects. Adverse effects of the trimethoprim and pyrimethamine. These drugs they can affect the GIT, GIT adverse effects, which are nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, abdominal pain. These are related with the GIT. About the blood, they can cause megaloblastic anemia. Megaloblastic anemia. They cause leukopenia, thrombocytopenia, especially they affect the blood cells, and granulocytosis. And about the allergic reaction, they can cause fever, rashes, vasculitis, stomatitis, glossitis, ulceration of the mucosa of the oral cavity. Then inflammation of the tongue. They can occur with the trimethoprim and pyrimethamine. Then contraindication, where trimethoprim and pyrimethamine, they are contraindicated. Usually, they should not be given to hypersensitive patient, which can cause these skin rashes or blood dysplasia. They should not be given these drugs. And a patient who have megaloblastic anemia, or the patient who are deficient with glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase enzyme deficiency, they should avoid taking these drugs. So these sulfonamides, pyrimethamine, trimethoprim, when they are used as a single drug, now there is a combination of these two drugs which we will discuss, that is cotrimoxazole. Cotrimoxazole is another combined preparation of these two drugs which we have discussed, like sulfamethoxazole, which is a sulfa drug, and trimethoprim, which belongs to this group of drugs. Cotrimoxazole, like bacterium, salpirium, these ceftriaxone. So these are the cotrimoxazole. Cotrimoxazole means this combination where one part of trimethoprim is combined with 5 parts of the sulfamethoxazole. Usually 80 milligram of trimethoprim is combined with a 400 milligram of the sulfamethoxazole. So this preparation is called cotrimoxazole. Other preparations, they are not called cotrimoxazole, when this ratio is disturbed, 1 to 5 is disturbed. So this specific ratio of these two drug combination, they are called co-trimetazole. Co-trimetazole. About the pharmacokinetic, just like pharmacokinetic of the sulfonamide and this trimethoprim, which we have discussed, means these two drugs, this combination can be given orally as well as by IV route. When given orally, both the drugs, they are absorbed well from the GIT and achieve the systemic concentration quickly. These drugs, they are widely distributed to all body tissue. Even they can easily cross the blood-brain barrier and can reach the CNS as well. Again, these drugs, both of the drugs, they are metabolized in the liver, especially sulfonamide by acetylation and glucuronic acid conjugation, and other drugs like trimethoprim, they are first metabolized in the liver. The parent drug and metabolites, they are then excreted to the kidney. And so both healthy liver and kidney, they are must for their metabolism and elimination. Then mechanism of action, very simple, as we discussed in the case of sulfur drugs. These sulfur drugs, what they do, they inhibit the dihydroteroid synthetase drug, sulfur drug. They inhibit this enzyme. So with the result, the synthesis of folic acid is inhibited. But this pyrimethamine, it blocks the dihydrofolate reductase enzyme. So when these two drugs, they are given in combination, both enzymes are blocked. So they block the synthesis of nucleic acid more efficiently. Rather, these two drugs, sulfamethoxazole and trimethoprim, they act in synergism. When both the drugs, they are given, they enhance the effect of each other. So that's why these two drugs are now used in combination. So this is the mechanism of action. You can see this, the mechanism of action. Again, these trihydroteroid synthase enzyme is blocked by sulfonamides, and this enzyme dihydrofolate reductase enzyme is blocked by trimethoprim. So both these enzymes, they are blocked, and then the synthesis of nucleic acid, DNA, RNA, they are blocked. So in this way, mind it, these sulfonamide and trimethoprim, they are mainly bacteriostatic drug, but for some of the microorganisms, they are bactericidal drug as well. So this is the mechanism of action of the co-trimetazole. We block both enzymes, dihydroteroid synthase and dihydrofolate reductase enzyme, both are blocked by these two drugs. Then indication of the co-trimetazole. This combination has the advantage over individual drugs, just they more efficiently cover the microorganism. Again, before the indication, you must know the antibacterial spectrum. As I told you, both drugs, they affect the gram-positive organism, gram-negative bacilli, gram-positive organism like staphylococcus, and gram-negative like these E. coli, Proteus, Klebsiella, they are well covered. And also these two preparations, they can be used against the malarial parasite as well. But this preparation, especially cotrimoxazole, it is very effective in the infection of toxoplasmosis, especially in the AIDS patient, when there is a secondary infection caused by these organisms which we have discussed. So they have very good result over there. And then pharyngeal gonorrhea caused by gonococcus. Again, in this condition, this preparation, this cotrimoxazole is effective drug. Then respiratory tract infection caused by Haemophilus influenzae, this meningitis caused by Haemophilus influenzae. For that condition, cotrimoxazole can be used effectively. Then skin and soft tissue infection, again like this skin infection, like this contact dermatitis, that can be covered by cotrimoxazole. And soft tissue infection like wound infection and other soft tissue infection, they are also well covered by cotrimoxazole. Then serraceal infection, serratia, which causes GIT infection, that can be covered by cotrimoxazole. Again, cotrimoxazole can be used in the typhoid and paratyphoid infection caused by salmonella typhi, salmonella paratyphi. They can be well covered by cotrimoxazole. Then Shigella enteritis, these GIT infection caused by Shigella, they can be well covered by cotrimoxazole. Then food poisoning, another condition, food poisoning, that can be well treated by cotrimoxazole. Then prostatitis, infection of the prostate gland, because these drugs they are concentrated in the prostate gland, so that infection can be very well covered by cotrimoxazole. Vaginitis caused by susceptible organism can be covered by cotrimoxazole. Then urinary tract infection, especially caused by those sensitive organisms, they can be well covered by this type of by these susceptible organisms, which are susceptible to the cotrimoxazole. So this is for the indication of the various microorganisms. Then adverse effects of the cotrimoxazole. Again, these adverse effects both produce adverse effects like sulfamethoxazole and trimethoprim. The adverse effects are a bit different. Sulfamethoxazole, they cause drug fever, rashes, erythema nodosum, Stevens-Johnson syndrome, and it can cause anemia, blood dyscrasia, thrombocytopenia, agranulocytosis. These types of they can cause blood dyscrasia, anemia in those patients who are glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficient. Then sulfamethoxazole can cause jaundice by affecting the liver, and renal damage they can cause, especially they can cause these crystal formation in the urine, sometimes stone formation. So those points should be kept in mind. Then trimethoprim because it affects the dihydrofolate reductase enzyme, it can cause megaloblastic anemia. This trimethoprim especially, it more efficiently inhibits the synthesis of this folic acid, and even this trimethoprim can cause inhibition of this folic acid deficiency, it can cause in human being as well. So they can cause megaloblastic anemia. Other adverse effects are headache, fever, rashes, GIT upset like abdominal pain, vomiting, diarrhea. They can cause these type of adverse effects. Then agranulocytosis. These especially trimethoprim, it can cause both can cause sulfur drug as well as trimethoprim, but trimethoprim more notorious to cause agranulocytosis. They decrease the granulocyte count in the blood. About the contraindication, this preparation cotrimoxazole should not be administered to the hypersensitive patient, to the neonates. Mind it, this cotrimoxazole preparation is contraindicated up to the 12 months of the after birth. They should not be administered to the neonates. Some of the ladies, even I have seen them bringing the Cetron, etc. with them, that I am using this drug, but it's not effective. So they are contraindicated. We say that they are contraindicated. Don't use them in the neonate, especially more safe drug like third generation cephalosporin and other penicillin. They are more preferable in this case. Then blood dyscrasia. These cotrimoxazole, as I told you, it can cause blood dyscrasia, even it can affect the bone marrow. So, and especially blood dyscrasia is more notorious in the patients who are glucose 6-phosphate dehydrogenase deficient. Then cotrimoxazole is also contraindicated in the hepatic insufficiency. When there is liver disease or jaundice or hepatic failure, you should not use cotrimoxazole. Then pregnancy, as I told you, these drugs can cross the placental barrier, so they can affect the fetus in utero. Then severe renal insufficiency. When there is kidney damage, kidney insufficiency or renal failure, again in that condition you should avoid the drug. So this is for the today's lecture, in which we have discussed sulfonamides, their classification, mechanism of action, their pharmacokinetic uses, adverse effect, then trimethoprim, pyrimethamine, again their pharmacokinetic mechanism of action, uses, adverse effect, antibacterial spectrum, and then the use of combined, which is called cotrimoxazole, 1:5 ratio. So again, we discuss that as well. So these are the drugs which are used specially in the, they are also called antifolate. Just they produce this folic acid deficiency in the microorganism. So the microorganism, they are not multiplicated, their growth is inhibited. With the result, the body resistant can easily cover the infection. And in the next, we will be discussing the other group of drugs like quinolone. So you should come prepared with the quinolone. So that we will discuss